The Pistons are the basketball champions of the world.
Detroit, it's time. It's playoff time, Detroit. Let's go to work.
Shout out Detroit. I got to buff up, you know what I'm saying? Detroit, I'm all the way in. Detroit Pistons, I'm all the way in. Let's do it.
Hello, Pistons fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Buffs on podcast. Still no Amit. He should be joining us next podcast. We can't wait to have him back. Have him back in this hosting chair, man. We need him, huh? So just the trio of brothers today. I'm here, Connie's here, and Gabe is here. We're going to be discussing the Pistons about the last week and a half or so. In this, we'll discuss some bad losses. That's going to have to be an issue we're going to be talking about. With that, we're going to go over the starting lineup problems. I know a lot of conversation about Simone Fontecchio perhaps getting in there. We'll get all into that. Jaden Ivey's really been struggling since the All-Star break, numbers plummeting. We'll dive into the Jaden Ivey situation, how Monty's using them. And then we'll wrap up with some current Piston news. Huge 10-day signing today that we'll get into. That'll leave you on the edge of your seat until you hear about that one. But just checking in on this last week of basketball as we usually do, guys. How are we doing? As Pistons fans, we're still on 9 wins in March now. It's starting to really hurt. And I think it really starts to hurt when I'm listening to these other teams' broadcasts on Stream East, and they're like just really going in on our record. Like the Miami Heat commentator yesterday went in and said, God bless their heart, and then went in on our 28-game losing streak and how we lost 35 and 36. It's just really hitting right now. But Gabe, how are you doing? How are you feeling about the Pistons last week or so, and just how we're doing recently?
Was that Chicago win? Was that this week or was that last pod already?
It was Tuesday a week ago. So I'm not
So
sure.
I believe that's not in the last podcast, so we haven't really gone into that one.
All right, so any week where we have a win in the podcast is a good win because I think we'll talk about this later, but I'm getting some big deja vu now to our 28-game losing streak. So yeah, that win felt great. The Miami game felt pretty good, even though the commentators, like you said, were just kind of juicing us up the entire game, saying how like bad they feel for us. The other 2 games were ugly. Other 3 games, not very watchable. But Cade, he has been playing great, and it's been a bright spot these past games.
Yeah, you said deja vu to the 28 game losing streak, and I have to agree with that. Like some of these games, it just seems so hopeless. Like especially I felt like that Cavs game like really hit me. Like, is this gonna happen again? Where the starters are playing all right, the bench unit comes in, absolutely shits the bed. Like terrible, terrible, terrible. That was the unit where Marcus Sasser wasn't back, so it's just Malachi Flynn and James Wiseman picking roles all the time, which just like we've been subjected to bad basketball all year, and that even stood out as like, what the hell are we doing here? Either Malachi like getting all the way to the rim or flopping in a mid-range jump shot to try to get a foul. But like you said, and then the starters come back in against the Cavs, and Darius Garland just hits like 7 threes in a quarter, and it just all feels like this past week, past the Bulls game, it all felt so hopeless a little bit. And I feel like at this point we should have it kicked out of us as fans of this team and this year, as you talked about, we lost 28 straight. But every once in a while there's like a win or two, and I think we all feel it's like, oh, this is the one. It's gonna start a little bit of a change in the season. They're gonna start playing a little bit differently. We might have an okay record post, March or the beginning of February or All-Star break, but it's just like every time you just come back to these absolute doo-doo losses, which like the Cavs, they put up like a fake fight down the stretch there to make it seem closer than it was, but that was not a close game. The Magic beat the shit out of us. The Heat was all right. I think I thought there were some tough calls, but I don't know.
The Magic game especially, like when they just beat you off that no supposedly clean play by Paulo, and then you just come out with no effort, look absolutely dead. Yeah, that was a real depressing game.
I think what really hurt the most, what really made us, like us sickos who were looking for any bit of positivity, was how we really controversially lost that game to the Orlando Magic. bounce back. Like seems like Monty really got into that team. We bounced back. We got that victory against Chicago after getting screwed by the refs. It really thought like that would be like, hey, maybe this is a half a step forward, but with every step forward that we take, it seems like 20 steps backwards, not even two, like it's just a significant leap backwards. We keep falling back in these holes. And like, yeah, you tell me we go lose 15, 16 in a row, like you just shrug your shoulders and say, yeah, I could see it so easily. And a big part of that is the lineup. Um, Monty seems like what's up, Connie? You got something to say?
I was gonna say I feel like the bigger part of the lineup is past week Jaden Ivey's just sucked. But we can talk about the lineup before we talk about JI if you want to. But
Yeah, I was just kind of introducing it. Monty seems like he's stuck with the lineup now, and a guy who's received a lot of criticism and rightfully so, Monty Williams, but albeit he played a nine-man rotation last time out. So so hats off to you, Monty Williams. But Jaden Ivey has been a starter. We saw Jaden Ivey go out towards the end of the game as Fontecchio came in. A lot of talk about, well, should Fontecchio start, not start? And a lot of the talk is about Jaden Ivey because his play since the All-Star break has been horrible. He's shooting 35% from the field and 17% from deep since the All-Star break. Just a complete contrast to the form he was in prior to the All-Star break. We saw that 40-point outburst. We thought, okay, Cade's out this 8-game stretch, and Jaden Ivey's taking a huge leap. That's when we thought, again, this might be a step forward for the Pistons, but Ivey seems to be taking, again, 20, 30, 40, X amount of steps backwards. What's been up with Ivy? Why do you think it's been off so much? I personally, I think just a lot of silly plays, a lot of silly turnovers, chucking up threes, forcing shots. I don't know. I can dive into it in a second, but I just want to get your perspective, Connie. You seem eager to step in there. What's been going on with Jaden Ivey?
see, I don't see a huge difference in the way he was playing, the way he's playing now to the way he was playing before. Like February before the All Star break, he was 18 points, 3 boards, 4 assists. He was shooting 43% from the 3 point line. And now since the All Star break, he's 13, 2, and 4. He's shooting 35% from the field and 17% from three. I haven't seen like at least I personally don't think there's been like a crazy difference in his shot selection or the stuff that he's doing. It's just a lot of bricks. It's just a lot of bricks, man. Like he had a game in February. He was 7 for 7 from the 3 point line. He won us that game like single handedly, just shooting the hell out of the ball. Now it's bad, bad misses, and he just like he gets a lot of corner threes up, where he's just wide open and he just glances the rim. Um, I don't know. I feel like it's just like not as much a change in the way he's been playing, but just it's a make or miss sort of game, and he's just been missing a lot more than he's making.
I think I think when I'm watching these games, he seems to be forcing his three a bit though. Like, yeah, he was in a really good spot with his 3-pointer for a stretch, and he might just be a streaky guy. In just broadly speaking, when we look at his career, it's very possible. But when he decides he's getting to the rim, there's nobody that can stop him other than himself through turnovers or offensive fouls because he's just so like we've seen so many times, freakishly athletic. His pick and roll with James I'm actually not James Wiseman, who's been okay in the pick and roll. With Jalen Duren, it's just been sensational. When he gets any sort of step, he can get all the way to the hoop to either draw a foul, get a bucket, or miss. And oftentimes Jalen Duren's there to get the rebound because there's so much tension on Ivy. And Ivy's been a pretty good passer, an unselfish, like a willing passer, I should say, in those situations to kick out. Unfortunately, a lot of those kickouts are to like Asar Thompson in the corner or something. But I just think he needs to just set the initiative just to get to the basket, and that's his goal. And threes will come secondary. You'll shoot a few when the defense gives it to you, but I think just taking too many threes that a guy like Steph Curry or James Harden would take. Like he's going tween off the dribble, shooting off balance, and we've seen some ugly misses as a result. But Gabe, I want to give you the platform to see and what you think about Jaden Ivey and his play.
I think I'm kind of right between you guys where he has taken more bad shots, but I think it's also they're just not going in as much. And I think what was especially evident last night against Miami was where his like turnover would come at the absolute worst time. Like we'd be on like a 3-on-1 break and then he'd just turn it over and they'd score down on the other end. Like it's just plays like that, and he hangs his head, and it's just like that's when you feel you just wish you had just like a Klay Thompson there at the two who doesn't handle and just scores. But I think another huge thing is the same thing that plagued Cade early in the season, which is Asar at the three, and there being absolutely no spacing, which is why he does have to take more threes. I think it was especially evident against Miami. They overload their smartly coached team. They were not caring about Stu's three, Asar's three, Duran's three, and it's just like there was no space for Cade unless he was open on the catch and shoot, and Jaden Ivey they let fly as well. So I mean, it's kind of goes right into that, but this is the main like deja vu I have. Like, why is this starting lineup playing again? We already know it doesn't work. Like, it's there for defense, but we suck at defense. I just don't understand. Like, has he learned nothing? Especially when Tekio is off the bench hitting like 4 or 5 threes a game.
Yeah.
Can we say one more thing about Ivy? I'm sorry, I do want to go into that really bad, but I don't want to leave this Ivy conversation like just yet, if that's cool. Because we haven't talked about the other side of the ball, where Jaden Ivey has just been absolutely putrid. Bar one, really cool chase down block. He is just getting absolutely cooked on the defensive end. Looks absolutely lost at times. I don't I think this is even more concerning than shot selection and things, because if he's not able to exist on the defensive end with all the questions that are already there with his shooting and playing
But he
next to a
should.
star guard.
Like there was again, like when he was really hooping, there was that stretch where we were talking about. Ivy looks like when he was good, he looked like really disruptive. Now he's not. He's never been like a good like a lockdown defender. But there was a couple weeks stretch there where I thought he was being really disruptive. You know, he was making hustle plays. He was passing lanes. It was just like the little defensive things that sort of add up to being at least like a net neutral and not like a piece of garbage. But now he's not like doing those things, and he's not a good lockup guy one on one. He gets blown by a lot. He gets caught sleeping a lot, ball watching a lot. I
He
don't
has
know,
a
man. He made an impact defensively for a stretch during this season, but it doesn't seem like it's there.
he has a defensive rating of 121.8.
That's not good.
Which, so I just, and again, it's like we've been sitting here for 2 3 years with Jaden Ivey and saying, why is he bad at defense? He's so fast, he's decently strong, and he's got a crazy wingspan. Guys we've compared him to, like Russell Westbrook, are great on the defensive end. Why is
Russell
Jaden?
Westbrook is never a good defender.
Okay, he's turned into a pretty decent defender nowadays, at least. Maybe that was a bit premature, but why isn't he good at defense? Especially when you're fighting for your minutes like this, and he is a guy that has such a strong work ethic and attitude. But Gabe, back over to you. If you could kind of just reintroduce your point with Simone Fontecchio and the emphasis on the shooting in the starting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, we lost 28 games in a row for a reason because we had absolutely no spacing. We trade guys, waive guys exclusively for spacing, and then we surround Cade with our worst shooters, especially when Ivy's cold. Like Asar just like at this point he just can't start. I'd much rather see him on that bench lineup where it's three bench guys, him and Ivy. I think that would be much more useful of his skills and allow Cade to open up again. Um, and then conversely, what about this lineup? You have Cade, Ivy, Tech, Asar, and Stewart at the five.
Um,
Duran, like obviously,
it's so funny. In my notes, I have that exact same lineup written
yeah,
down. I said the exact same thing the other game after we lost.
That would be something I would love to see if Durham picks up 2 early fouls. Instead of bringing just James Wiseman in to be the backup center and keep the rotation the same, bring Tech in and slide guys down. That'd be pretty cool.
because like Asar is that pick and roll threat, right? He can get up. Stu is already a much better defender than Duran, even though he's not as athletic, and just like the spacing of that lineup. So of course, it's probably not going to happen. We have to see James Wiseman play, unfortunately, but that would be my ideal lineup. Or of
Um,
course, just replace the star with Tech,
I don't like that.
I
or Ivy with Tech. Why not?
there's so many options you have here, but I just don't see a way that Simone Fontecchio is not starting. His gravitational pull on the 3-point line alone, um, opens up the game in so many ways. He's in that corner, and one thing I love about him is he won't hesitate. You know, you give him an inch of space or a millimeter of space, and Simone will look right at the rim, and it doesn't matter what he's shooting. And because of that, he has such a huge gravitational pull. Um, I don't see a way a start doesn't start, but that brings the question: and does Ivy drop out of the starting lineup? Look at how we closed that game against Miami. We went with Cade, Fontecchio, Asar, Stu, and Duran. We played some big ball there. Um, and Ivy could potentially thrive in that sixth end. We've talked about something like that. Does Stu drop out? That's what most people are saying, like looking at the most logical, and then Stu would come in as the backup big, which would drop James Wiseman out. Or Gabe, as you mentioned, does Duran drop out? Which on paper, if you think about it, makes sense, but would displease so many fans of this organization. It's a really difficult decision, but I just think somehow Simone has to be in there. And I think this difficult decision brings in the broader question of, are these guys going to be able to coexist on a good basketball team long term? But that's not right now. So, Connie, what do you think about Simone Fontecchio's role?
I mean, I want him to start. I want him to start instead of Stu, just because that would let us shore up our big man rotation. Maybe see less of Wiseman, like less guys that suck if we space out their big men that can actually play. Um, Along with this, even though he's been hitting them, I still don't think Stu is quite, as respected as Fontecchio is. And Ivy, I just want to have him out there. Like, if this is really gonna work, if this iteration of this team is like really gonna work, I think Ivy's got to work as a starter. It's got to be that Ivy that we saw for a month previous to the All Star break. This current Ivy, yeah, it's easy to say he should be on the bench because he probably should be on the bench. But if we're talking about what he can be, I think that's more valuable to have out there and not let it kill his confidence. And I think if you put more shooting, it could get easier for him as well. So I would go put Tech in for Stu. Let Stu run the backup center. Um, or let somebody else run the backup center. Somebody that has recently joined the team.
We can we can get in just a second, like literally just a second, but I have a few more just like general complaints from the last week or so. If you guys don't have anything else to pitch in,
Down.
I'd move on to the next segment then.
General complaints.
All right. I don't know. I feel like I've been more critical in this last month or so, especially in the last couple of weeks of Pistons basketball, and I've really just been looking in as to what our system is. And this really was a specific thing I started focusing on in that second Orlando Magic game where they just cooked us because they knew what they wanted and got it every time. And then I look at our offense and I wonder, what do we try to create? We have such limited action, and I notice that the ball just gets in Asar Thompson's hands standing in the corner so many times. That tells me we don't know what we're doing. We don't really have a system, or I don't see the system. When the plays come out, the special plays never really have an effective outcome. And the larger question of our system is what is our identity? And often in these times when these teams are so crappy at the moment, there is no identity. But I wanted to open it up and ask you guys, what do you think? All right, what do you think if this team's successful? What would our identity be? What do you see long term? Do you see some glimpses of our identity already in there right now?
I think it's a multi-head attack kind of kind of offense, size on defense, almost like a Clippers type of team, but miles behind where they are now. Um, ideally, I think you want everyone to be able to switch 1 through 5, and then offensively just kind of go at the weak link. But we are so far away from that. So it's kind of hard to see right now.
Connie, what about you? Can you
Uh,
identify one now, or is this one we should go back to next pod? 'Cause I think it's a serious question we got to have here.
no, I agree, but I don't know if the basis of a culture is there right now. Like I don't know when the Pistons win games, how do they do it? I was looking back at
The
our
other
non.
team goes historically low from three.
Yeah. Okay. So one game, we had him shoot what 7 for a lot.
The Bulls,
There was
what, two
two
for
wins where
30?
we got them right after a trade, so they were decimated. There's one where Ivy went 7 for 7 from the 3-point line. Like I don't know even if you can draw anything from the wins that the Pistons have gotten this year. Uh, uh, I would be inclined to agree with Gabe that it's a sort of attack at you from many different angles. Death of a thousand cuts. You know, you have Ivy and Cade both running pick and rolls, attacking the defense, Duran attacking the other guy, grab and go potential. I think Stu needs to get a lot better at that. That's why I think a main reason he should go to the bench is because I don't think he's shown that ability that a power forward should really have in today's game of doing stuff off the dribble without like just like sort of putting his butt to the guy and backing him into the middle of the court. Um, but yeah, I don't see much of a basis of winning culture style currently.
I want to I want to get Amit's opinion on this too, and maybe when he rejoins us, we can revisit this question and maybe we can focus on it more because I think it's really interesting to see like what is the long-term plan here. But Gabe, you quickly mentioned on the defense there, the switching, like that being a potential avenue. I have a serious complaint with that, and that's something I picked up specifically in that game against Cleveland where Darius Garland was unconscious from deep. Asar's our best perimeter defender, and it took us so long to make him not switch or to let him not switch and fight through screens to cool down Garland. Because before it was you get a screen. Now Isaiah Stewart, who albeit is good at switching, but doesn't stand as good of a chance against Darius Garland as Asar. They walk up, get one screen, and it's one on one with so much time and space, and it was just over. So my final complaint there is what's the point of the switching if it's so easy to have another team attack a weaker link and it just subtracts from having Asar Thompson's defensive abilities.
I
Um
was Fournier on Butler all
oh
night last night.
yeah.
Oh my God, that annoyed me so much.
Yeah, but then Connie, since you were the most excited about this, you were the way I found out about this news. What happened with the Pistons today? We sign anyone?
Yeah, you know, those two droppings of Mike Muscala, Gallinari, all the cuttings we're doing, there's spots open on the roster, and the Pistons pick up 38-year-old veteran dog big man Taj Gibson. Uh,
I need Ahmed
I
to add some sirens coming in at this
Yeah,
point.
I'm at please let some air horns here. Wah, 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 wah. This is a huge deal. You can look at it this two ways. One way is that Taj Gibson is a 38-year-old big man who has looked every bit of 38 so far on the Knicks. He is not a plus player at this point, and it's just another sort of bad big man for Monty to play. I'd say the other way to look at it is he's a dog pound. He's an old big man that knows how to play big man defense and could be a valuable asset to teaching the young bigs on this team, how to do it. Um, you guys both played 2K My League, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you know how in my league you can get players to mentor other players and they can pass on the badges that they have. You guys,
Yeah.
you guys do that or no? Like you can set up basically at the start of the season to have a guy train with another guy. So like you have like a veteran guy that's not very good, but he has a lot of badges, and you put him playing with your young guy, and then your young guy picks up the badges. Could this be a badge play? Could we be trying to get Jalen Duren the Intimidator badge or the Anchor badge?
I see a potential connection here with Isaiah Stewart. Um, but I don't know. I also didn't see too much about it, but I saw Taj Gibson has some connections inside the organization with Tellum and someone else. So also kind of funny that us and the Knicks just like we just take the Knicks garbage at this point, like we're just swapping players. Um, so I don't know. Not too opinionated on this one. I think it'll be a 10-day stint and no longer, and I'd be surprised if he sees more than like 2.5 minutes in his stint.
Yeah, I have nothing. Nothing on this. I do hope he plays again. He plays over Wiseman, but I think that's
Come
an
on.
empty
I'm
hope.
taking James Wiseman over 38-year-old Taj Gibson at this point, man.
I
I'm
don't
not.
know.
There's a reason Taj just signed a 10-day contract.
Yeah, 38. He's been around. He has probably more b-ball IQ in his pinky than James Wiseman has in his whole
Yeah,
body.
sure.
I mean, yeah. He's not gonna be an effective player or somebody that's gonna be pushing wins, but he might, I don't know, have Duran pick up one or two better habits defensively or some shit like that, or just preparing for the games, or he's just a vet that's been around for a while, knows how to play
But,
on level.
we should bring some more vets in. Like we should bring Rodney McGruder back or something, Teach these guys something about a work ethic. Um, Anything else you guys want to touch on here? As we wrap up another episode of the Buffs On podcast.
Let's look ahead to the next week because if I'm seeing some stars here, I think we might go 4-0.
Whoa, break down the schedule to us, Gabe.
Well, we have. I know we're playing. Hold up 1 second. All right, here we go. We're playing the Nets. They are absolutely horrible. Um, so there's that. But of course, we're not gonna beat them realistically. Then the Mavs, who are 1-5 in their last six. Um, so that might be a win. And then of course the Hornets, who we've already beaten this season twice this season, I believe.
I
And
think so,
then
yeah.
the Raptors, who suck and all their best players are injured. So those are four winnable games. Realistically, I think we win two of them.
They really are four winnable games, but
I think this is the
one
easiest stretch of the season for us. Easiest 4-game stretch.
one thing we didn't factor in though is we're the worst team. We're so bad.
So are the
That's
Hornets. So
reasonable.
are the Raptors without Scotty Barnes, Hurdle, and like three other guys.
Two
RJ
sounds
Barrett.
reasonable. I could be sold on two. At the end of the day, the Nets have more talent. The Mavericks will get a nice bounce back win against us. Um, I'm gonna go 1-3. I'm gonna take a slightly more negative view. Connie, what are you thinking in
Connie,
these?
no way you're gonna say 0-4.
Oh,
The Mavs. I'm sorry, the Nets.
the, the Nets, the Mavs, the Hornets, the
The
Raptors.
Raptors. So we're losing to the Mavs. That's a guarantee. I think we're losing to the Raptors. I'm gonna go 2-2.
All right. Fair enough then. Well, fans, thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, and we want to hear your opinions, interact with us on social media, interact with us on YouTube. Let us know, what do you think the identity of the Detroit Pistons can be? What should we do with Simone Fontecchio? Should he start? Should he come off the bench? If he starts, who has to come out of the lineup? Interact with us. We'd love to interact back with you guys. But once again, we want to say, throw the Buffs on Detroit. The future is bright.